early 1990s, New York stood at a crossroads. Crime was high, budgets were thin, and the city's identity was shifting under the weight of change. And into that moment stepped a man whose presence was calm, deliberate, and deeply rooted in the belief that New York, with all its contradictions, could be a place where everyone belonged. His name was David Norman Dinkins, the 106th mayor of New York City and the first black person to ever hold that office. David Dinkins often described New York as a gorgeous mosaic, not a melting pot, not a single blended identity, but a mosaic where every community kept its own color, its own shape, its own story. The belief wasn't just poetry, it shaped how we governed. Dinkins saw the city as something fragile, something worth protecting, and something that needed investment, not punishment. To understand Dinkins, you have to understand the world where he came from. Born in 1927, raised during segregation, he carried himself with a quiet dignity that came from surviving a country that didn't always see his humanity. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, he wasn't a street politician. He was measured, thoughtful, a man who believed deeply in institutions and processes and in the idea that government could be a force for good. When he became mayor in 1990, New York was in trouble. The city was facing record crime, a crack epidemic, racial tension, and a budget stretched to its breaking point. Many neighborhoods felt abandoned, many black New Yorkers felt unheard, and in the moment, Dinkins tried to govern with a steady hand, not by escalating conflict, but by investing in prevention. He expanded the police force, but he was also expanding youth programs. He pushed for community policing, and this was long before it became a national talking point. He also believed that safety came from opportunity, not just enforcement. But Dinkins' relationship with the black community was very complicated, not because he didn't care, because he cared in a way that didn't always match the moment. The early 90s were a time of raising militancy and raising frustration. The Nation of Islam, under Louis Farrakhan, had a strong presence in New York. The 5% Nation, born in Harlem, shaped the culture of the streets, the music, the fashion, the language. These groups spoke directly to the black men who felt ignored by the system. They offered identity, pride, and a sense of belonging. Dinkins respected black empowerment, but he was not a radical. He was a believer in the traditional political processes. He didn't speak the language of the NOI or the 5%ers. He spoke the language of diplomacy, coalition, and quiet negotiation. And that created a tension. And many black New Yorkers wanted a fighter. Dinkins offered a caretaker. But still he made history. He brought black leadership into City Hall in a way New York had never seen. He opened doors for future generations, including the rise of leaders like Eric Adams, who often credits Dinkins for paving the way. But Dinkins' time in office was not without controversy. The Crown House conflict in 1991 tested his administration and became a political flashpoint. Critics argued he moved too slowly. Supporters argued he was trying to prevent a city already on the edge from tearing itself apart. The truth is always more complicated. And while crime remained high during much of his term, the seeds of New York's dramatic crime drop, the one often credited to the administration that followed him, were planted under Dinkins. He expanded the police force by thousands of officers. He invested in after-school programs, summer jobs, and community centers. He believed that the long-term stability required long-term investment. Financially, he helped pull New York back from the brink. He balanced budgets. He stabilized city finances. He also laid groundwork that others would lay. But politics is rarely kind to quiet men. Dinkins was defeated after one term, and much of his work was overshadowed by louder voices and more aggressive styles of leadership. Yet history has its way of circling back, and today, many historians argue that Dinkins' calm, steady approach prevented New York from spiraling into deeper chaos. His legacy is not one of dramatic speeches or bold confrontations. It is one of patience, investment, and belief. Belief that New York's diversity was its strength. Belief that communities deserve resources. Belief that leadership didn't have to shout to be effective. For Black New Yorkers, Dinkins represented possibility. He represented a moment when the city looked at a Black man and said, "Lead us." He represented dignity in a time of turmoil. And even when some felt he didn't go far enough, they knew he carried the weight of history on his shoulders. David Dinkins left office quietly, the same way he entered public life. But his impact remains in the programs he built, the leaders he inspired, and the Mosaic he believed in so deeply.